Welcome to the Attic Manadad here. It's the channel where we explore what's fun in Magic, mostly on Arena, but you know, things are going crazy this week with the release of Tarkir Dragonstorm. So we'll talk about, Pioneer, Modern, everything. Everything is on the table to talk about on this Meta Monday. On Mondays on this channel, I do a live stream where I go through the metadata on that I have access to. I pay for untap.gg, hashtag not sponsored. But I share what I can find out on the untap.gg data for you guys. And then in the case of this week, because we have a new set coming out tomorrow, I believe maybe even less than 24 hours from when this is going out live, Tarkir Dragonstorm will be on Arena, will also be on Magic Online, officially releasing in paper, I believe, Wednesday, so in 2 days. So I guess maybe the first time you'll have a chance to play is your FNM or something. It seems like a lot of headspace on this camera. Adjust that a little bit. Maybe a little too much. Yeah, so I've actually done a bunch of research this week. I've got a bunch of tabs here. I got a bunch of cards from Tarkir Dragonstorm that I want to talk about, that people are talking about. May shake up some of the formats, or maybe they won't. We could talk about that too. There's this worry, especially in Standard, with a 3-year Standard, and the decks are already really powerful. Are these Tarkir Dragonstorm cards hitting at a power level where they can actually be competitive viable, or are they just gonna go into the abyss? Is an open question. It's an open question for all the sets going into Standard, really. I mean, it seems like they've been doing a good job on power level in terms of a couple cards each set are hitting in Standard, but some of you want more cards. Anyways, let's take a look. Speaking of Standard, what is winning today? Well, Azorius Omniscience continues to be #1 winner, and Mono Red Aggro continues to be the most popular. That's been a theme as we've started this Meta Mondays series. Look at the Mono Red Aggro popularity. I mean, it just even went up this week, bumped up another tier. Far behind Mono Black Midrange, and then Azorius Omniscience is at #3. But if you look at the win rate here, I mean, look, Azorius Omniscience is pulling ahead in win rate, so it must have a good matchup against the Mono Red and a lot of the rest of the field. Mono Red Aggro there, Boros Auros and Rakdos Aggro. And if you don't know, you can go watch my video on quotes Rakdos Aggro. Rakdos Aggro is just Mono Red Aggro, but with that fling guy. That it almost never gets cast, so it's really just another flavor of Mono Red Aggro, as untap.gg categorizes it. There's Mono Black Midrange. I mean, it's still got 54.2% win rate, but why should that be #2 most popular when you could be playing Mono Red or Azorius Omniscience that has a better win rate there? Much better win rate. Esper Self Bounce. This is the bugaboo in best of 3, and we'll take a look at the best of 3 stats here in a second. Possibly getting an upgrade also in Tarkir Dragonstorm. We're going to talk about that. And then 4-color domain, also well above 50% win rate here, 52. And then Azorius Control, holding strong there. So, interesting to see. The popularity for most of the decks is not really changing. It's just Mono Black Midrange is surging for whatever reason. Maybe popular content creator made one, although it looks like it just had a drop off and now it's coming right back to where it was. So I don't know exactly what happened with Mono Black Midrange. If you guys know, maybe leave a comment. Just want to see if we narrow it down to just the Platinum to Mythic, what changes. Azorius Omniscience still with the highest win rate. Mono Red Aggro still the most popular. Some other stuff may be slipping in here at the bottom, but not that much of a difference. Now, best of 3, Boros Mice has the highest win rate. Platinum to Mythic. Mono Red Aggro, Azorius Omniscience. pretty good. 4-color domain, Gruul Prowess, all have really good win rates here. This top 8 in terms of popularity. Mono red aggro looks like it's kind of going down a little bit. Esper Self Bounce had a spike there in the middle of the week, and it's come down. So just looking, just glancing at this stuff, I mean, I think mono red aggro is going to be a factor. It's always a factor when a new set releases. People want to try to play the new cards, and mono red just eats them up. So if you're going to be playing this first week, I would either be playing mono red aggro or have a plan for mono red aggro. On the other hand, the plan for mono red aggro could be the Azorius Omniscience deck, could be Boros Mice. Interesting that the Mice do so much better here in best of 3. Look how well those Mice are doing, and they've been doing well, and nobody has seemed to really compete with it. Gruul Prowess got up there for a hot minute, and but now just quite a gap there. 4-color domain, is that what's surging here at the end of the week? And Azorius Control is bouncing off 50% win rate, trying to come back up. Interestingly, what's pink here? Jeskai Oculus falling down. So that had a rise going into the end of the month and then going back down. Interesting data. Let's take a look at Explorer, aka Pioneer. Selesnya, Death and Taxes. I keep threatening to make a video about this. I've in fact recorded an intro to a video about this. I've been enjoying playing this deck. Dimir Ninjas, Mardu Greasefang, Azorius Lotus Field, Rakdos Demons, Gruul Aggro, 5-color Overlords, Rakdos Aggro. Seems like lots of decks you can play that have a good positive win rate. Rakdos Demons, far and away the most popular deck here in Explorer. Look at just shooting up. I wonder if somebody made a video about it. I thought that the mono red or the Gruul decks were kind of popular, but doesn't look like it, at least on Arena. Best of 1, maybe. Let's see. Best of 1, Rakdos Aggro is the highest win rate and the most popular, so people have figured out the format. It looks pretty solved here. Mono green Elves, though, that's kind of fun as the number 2. What are people doing in mono green Elves for Explorer? Got your 4 Mana Dorks, Dwynen's Elite, Elvish Warmaster, Leaf Crown Visionary, Elvish Archdruid, Imperious Prefect, Tyvar the Pummeler, 2 of those, Genesis Wave, Overrun, Collected Company, Elven Ambush. Interesting, 1 of Elven Ambush. Instant speed, make 3 elves. And then 21 lands, including 1 Three Tree City. All right, well, that's definitely a possibility for Typal Tuesday. On Tuesdays, we try to play the best types of Magic. Will be fun to check in with Elves. Nothing very surprising there. I think the big power up for Elves, and this is a little bit of a spoiler looking ahead, Craterhoof Behemoth back into Standard. And this has been a traditional Elves payoff for a long time. You go search up, your Fierce Empath goes and searches it up, and you make a ton of mana, and you have a ton of Elf Dorks, and you play it, and you attack for a bajillion with Trample, and you win the game. So, will there be an Elves Standard deck with Craterhoof Behemoth? We'll talk about that. Alchemy. Those of you who follow Alchemy, looks like Azorius Flyers, Azorius Auras has the highest win rate. Number 3, Grixis Heist, whereas Grixis Heist, far and away most popular. Lots of people liking rabbits too, and that's not as winning. Scan down on the data for that. Best of 3, not a lot of data there. As usual, historic best of 3. Actually, a little bit more data. We got most popular Selesnya Devotion, highest win rate, Boros, and Orzhov look like both right up there. In best of 1, though, is where the action is. And if my internet connection will allow it, we'll see. Oh, we should go back to the full Bronze to Mythic, too. Mardu Sacrifice has the highest win rate. 4-color food, Boros Auras. Lots of above 60% win rate if you're just trying to farm wins and rank up. Historic might be the place to do it. Boros Auras is the most popular and doesn't... Oh yeah, number 3 on the win rate. And looks like Boros Auras had a nice popularity surge here in the last week. And 4-Color Food has actually had a good win rate surge here in the last week. Interesting. Let's just take a quick look. Let's take a sneaky peek at 4-Color Food. I promise you I will talk about Tarkir Dragonstorm. That's going to be the bulk of this video. But this is ostensibly a weekly format where we talk about what is winning in the meta. And so 4-Color Food looks like got Cauldron Familiar of all things, although it has been alchemized so that it can't block. It's a little less annoying. One of fun of Atlanta War Elves for this deck list. The Johnny Nakano Pariah, total busted card, Amp Raptor, similar. Bartolome de Presidio. And Samwise Gamgee, Goblin Bombardment. That's interesting. So there's a new creature coming out that has ETB deal damage. Kind of reminds me of Goblin Bombardment. Birthing Ritual. Interesting. And a bunch of lands, including 4 mana Confluence. Okay. Well, that is what's up with 4-Color Food. Timeless. Boros, Mardu, 4-Color, Mardu Energy, Boros Energy, 4-Color Show and Tell, Orzhov Blink, 4-Color Belcher. I think there is a little bit cooking in Timeless lately. You can see there's actually been quite a bit of shift in the meta. Look at 4-Color coming way down. Big rise in Mardu Energy. Things might be happening in Timeless. This looks like maybe interesting. Hopefully I will find some time to make a Timeless video soon for one of these decks. Just because I like to keep up with Timeless. It was a really fun format when everything was wide open, and it got a little less fun when everything was about show and tell. But looks like we've got a number of decks here with win rates, so maybe the meta's gotten more interesting there in Timeless. And then a quick sneak peek at Brawl. Where's Bristly Bill today? Bristly Bill, number 2 in popularity. Ketramos, still number 1. Ragavan, way up there in win rate. But Ketramos also up there in win rate. I have a feeling also, usually there's a new hotness for each set. Ketramos was it for Ether Drift. I'm wondering what's going to be it for... There's a ton of great dragons and legendaries in the new Tarkir set. So will be interesting to see what people are brewing up in Brawl in week 1. But usually there's one commander everybody loves. In this case, it was Ketramos. Ketramos also wins. So Ketramos will probably end up on the Hell queue, and you'll get to see. But a lot of the win rate could also just be people conceding because there's just so much Ketramos if you look at the popularity. Although really 2.3% of the decks are Ketramos. It's not like every other deck. It's not like 50% Ketramos. It was up as high as 4.3% in February. So if you were been bored by Ketramos, maybe now is the time to jump back into Brawl. There's half as much Ketramos as there used to be. Okay, so let's talk about what's changing in Standard and other formats. A lot of people are theorizing that Standard won't change that much. Now, on the other hand, there are things going on. I'm highlighting this. This is a Reddit post from this week by Liminal Conductor. Nice high effort post going through Simic Toxic, which is not a tier 1 deck, but this person has really put in a lot of thought into the deck list and then actually gotten some really good feedback if you read through the discussion. And they believe there's nothing changing in the deck with Tarkir, but we do get stuff like Nature's Rhythm, which comes out X green. Search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So you can tutor your Venerator Rot Priest right onto the battlefield with this. And I know there is a card, one of the battles, that does a similar thing. The main innovation seems to be that people haven't been playing is you've got Commune with Nature, so that also is a 1 green way of finding your Rot Priest. So once you get your Rot Priest, you copy him with the Mockingbird, and you have, or you can copy Ivy, and you just do stuff with things that target them, like Enter the Enigma or Coordinated Clobbering. That's a lot of fun tech. Interesting, there's got Bounce Off in here instead of the one that proliferates, which is actually in the sideboard Serum Snare. I think I will do this deck, so I won't belabor this. The transition here I want to make is they were saying there's no no upgrades coming from Tarkir, but in the sideboard this deck was running Pick Your Poison. Well, that's sacrifice an artifact, sacrifice an enchantment, or sacrifice a creature with flying. That might still be better, but that's sorcery speed. You can have a strictly better disenchant with Heritage Reclamation, which is destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. Let's take a look just at this card in the big mode. This card should be seeing sideboard play maybe all the way to modern, definitely in standard and Explorer slash Pioneer, because you got great 3 modes. I'm wondering if this is even a main deckable card. Green has been in trouble. Green has not been competitive. It's been a decent support color, but I'm wondering if there's a green deck that's fairly low to the ground. There's enough targets that this removes a lot. Pretty much any deck you're up against is going to have either an artifact, an enchantment, or something in their graveyard that you want to remove. And you do get to draw the card. So the failure mode of just this cycles for 2 is not bad. So I may be way off base. You can leave a comment and let me know what your thoughts are, but I'm wondering if Heritage Reclamation will even be main deckable. Maybe just in best of 1 where you don't really get a chance to sideboard. I'm just wondering. I'm just throwing it out there. The card we know is going to see play, day 1, week 1. The Esper bounce decks are going to be playing Sun Pearl Kirin. This is just another bouncer. This time it's 2 mana. It's flash, and if you happen to bounce a token, which they do make those tokens, they're little prowess tokens, they're little prowess otters, they can even cash those in for a card with Sun Pearl Kirin. I don't know why that's so hard to say, but it is. So Sun Pearl Kirin, definitely going to see play. It's an uncommon. Will it power up the bounce decks? The bounce decks are already pretty good. If this is just a slight improvement on power level, they can go a little bit more white with their mana base, possibly. Do they even need more bounce effects? Is the other question. I'm not thinking that the power level, if it goes up, it will not be that much. That's my personal guess. But Sun Pearl Kirin, you're definitely going to see it. Cards I'm excited about personally. Ugin Eye of Storms. I played the pre-release. I played 1 pre-release this weekend. Everybody was talking about how Ugin is just ridiculous. 7 mana, 7 loyalty. When you cast it, you exile up to 1 target permanent that's 1 or more colors. Okay, so it's already 1 for 1 when it comes down, even if your opponents remove it. And then if you could somehow cast it and then cast a colorless spell right after, you get to exile another target permanent that's 1 or more colors. If you get a plus on it after that, you're gaining 3 life and drawing a card. You can also do a 0 to get a bunch of colorless mana, which can help you just follow up with that colorless spell to get your 2 for 1. This card is absolutely bonkers. Probably busted in formats where you have the Urza's lands, where you have Tron. But I think also just like standard. It's not unheard of in standard to be able to ramp to 7 mana in this current standard. We've got the, got the Overlord. We've got all this good ramp stuff. Here's a deck list that uses Ugin that I found. It is by MTG Joe, fellow YouTube content creator here. So you can go, I think Joe has made a video of this. You could go watch that. But looks like They're actually using white, which is interesting. I would not have guessed. I would put this in a green shell personally, just for the ramp, but instead going for like a white shell. Keep the board clear with the Days of Judgment. Draw cards with Maze Mind Tome, Unstable Glyph. Also, a board wipe. So it's kind of like got an artifacty theme going. Might Stone and Weak Stone can do some removal and ramp you. Got Chameel, which is kind of fun. Thran Spider, which is great. Artifact ramp. Solemn Simulacrum, artifact ramp. Marketback Walker is interesting. 2 of those. You can cast that for 0 too, I guess, once you cast Ugin, just to get the trigger. So this just becomes a 0 mana removal spell. Cityscape Leveler, also a big mana removal spell. And then Muruganda Raceway for colorless ramp. Arid Archway for colorless ramp. And Fountain Port, great value, of course, for Mori Vault to help you dig for your artifacts. Can't dig for Ugin. But interesting shell, interesting deck. I think there will be a lot of brews around Ugin to begin with because it is so powerful. It'll be interesting to see what shakes out. Will there be a competitive Ugin deck? Could be this one. Okay, so now we can talk about green. Green really needs help. I think they know that on the play design team. It looks like we got a couple pieces for green. Big one here is Herd Heirloom, which is a 2-mana rock, which is always nice. For commander and things, green doesn't really need 2-mana rocks because they have a lot of 2-mana land ramp. And this is a very restrictive rock because you can only use it to cast creature spells. This might actually be better in 5-color decks, like the 5-color dragon decks and things. But if there is a green creature deck, Herd Heirloom is a possibility. It's a little harder to remove than the elves and other things you might ramp with on 2. So Herd Heirloom, one to keep an eye on. The other exciting thing about it is that second tap ability. This was I faced an opponent that had this in limited in the pre-release sealed, and it was very good. They would cast some big dragon, and then the next turn they would hit. They would give the dragon trample, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, and they would immediately, get their card back for the dragon. And then usually I would remove the dragon after that, but it was I would already lost tempo and lost card advantage to the Herd Heirloom, and the fact that it can do it every turn if you're not using it to ramp, it can be drawing you cards as long as you got a creature that can get through, even just with trample, which green should be able to do. Herd Heirloom, one to keep an eye on. Craterhoof Behemoth, we just spoiled that a little bit, but again, if there is a ramp into big green creatures deck, or with the elf deck, with a bunch of small green creatures and mana dorks, and then just Craterhoof and win the game, this is could be a piece of it. The other thing is the big, Beanstalk decks. Beanstalk was not banned last week. Beanstalk continues in the format. So ramp, Beanstalk, draw cards, Craterhoof to just finish as a finisher. It's not bad. We do still have Cavern of Souls. And if you're looking for another Cavern of Souls effect, this one's going all the way back. It's great in Commander, CEDH, all this stuff. Mysterized Village. I think people are sleeping on this a little bit, maybe, or maybe not. It's up to it's up over $10. And the fancy version almost $20. Mysterized Village is just a blue tap land, but for blue and tap, the next spell you cast this turn can't be countered. The next spell, okay, not just a creature spell, whatever. There are ways to get this effect for cheaper, but in terms of if you are in a deck that's going to have mountains or forests, and it doesn't need to be a basic mountain or a forest, I think this doesn't come in tapped as often. It's not too bad as long as you're not a super fast tempo deck. There's a little bit of balance there, right? Because the fast creature decks would love to be able to beat the counterspell decks. But again, I think Wizards keeping an eye out, you saw Azorius Control there in Standard, just right at the bottom of the top tier. They're keeping the control decks in check, and keeping counterspells in check. If you don't know, counterspells are one of the most salty, they're one of the most divisive mechanics in all of Magic. People like me love counterspells, but people also hate to get counterspelled. And it does make especially new players salty, and it makes them quit the game. And we do want new players to stick around and like the game. So it's probably in their best interest to make sure counterspell decks are not that good in standard. And one of the ways they do that is Mysterized Village. If the counterspell decks ever get too good, people will start playing Mysterized Village and keep. This also is really weird for the. You can almost sideboard this in for like the control mirrors. It's interesting. Mysterized Village. I'm very hyped on that card. Okay, so we talked a little bit about Nature's Rhythm, talking about using it for Simic Poison. This is my list. You can look this up on Mox Field right now, Simic Poison Dragonstorm Standard, if you want to see what I will probably record a video about very soon. And then, where were we? Yeah, Nature's Rhythm. This uses this new Harmonized mechanic. There's been a question of if some cards with Harmonized become popular, does Graveyard Hate get even more necessary to run in Standard or in Pioneer things? That's questionable. It seemed to me the Harmonized mechanic was very limited oriented. As you can see here for this card, to play it a second time, you need to get green, 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 and then the X, 4 greens and then the X. But you know, being able to get a mana dork onto the battlefield for 3 mana, or especially for stuff like Simic Poison, where the deck really only functions if you've got Venerated Rot Priest, and it functions really well if you can get 2 or more of those. So that's something to keep an eye out for. Another thing that might change up Standard and Pioneer and maybe other formats is this deck has this set has a lot of dragon support. It is Tarkir Dragonstorm. This is the Storm Dragon from Tarkir Dragonstorm, not to be confused with the card Dragonstorm, which is not from the set. It's an older card, but this is a 4/4 dragon with Storm. And if you don't know, Storm is a mechanic that's considered very powerful. In fact, the scale of mechanic power that they use, that the game's designers use, is called the Storm scale, meaning like, okay, Storm is the top. They bust this out very, very carefully. I'm guessing this card was play tested to within an inch of its life. So my guess would be this card is not busted because it was play tested so carefully. On the other hand, we've seen previously cards like Mind Desire with Storm that are 6 mana actually are playable, especially in older formats. If there is a way with red to, you know, get a turn with a lot of mana and then just fire off a bunch of, you know, cantrip spells, wouldn't even have to be red. You could do like blue cantrips. There's some green cantrips even. Go big mana, and then just make sure you have 6 mana at the end of it. You really don't have to make that many dragons. And because of the way Storm works, it's a cast trigger. So that goes on the stack. Then all the copies go on the stack. Even if they have a counter spell for the original Storm Scaled Scion, you're getting all the other Storm copies of it. I think the thing that would make this busted is if this had haste. There are ways right now that people use in Standard to give stuff haste. There's a couple good red enablers. So I'm wondering, Stormscale Scion, definitely a fun deck to try out in the new format. Is it going to be a real deck? I don't know. What more people are talking about as a real deck with dragons is Grixis Dragons. This is a list published on MTGA Zone by Strickles. We got a bunch of new cards from the new set. There's Dragonologist, which is a 1/3 that's giving untapped dragons hexproof and lets you search up an instant sorcery or dragon. So it's a 1/3, draws you a card. Always good. A lot of these dragons have what's called an omen attached to them. It looks like it's an adventure. It's not. It's going to shuffle back into your library. In this case, we've got Scavenger Regent, which has Exude Toxin, which is each non-dragon creature gets -X/-X until end of turn. So it's a board wipe, and then it shuffles back into your deck, and then you can, when you redraw it, you can board wipe it again, or when you're ready, you cast it as a 4/4 flying dragon with Ward, discard a card, which is also great rate, great. Like, we've seen Ward, discard a card in black be very good. Scavenger Regent looks like a strong card. They're putting 4 of in this deck list. Decadent Dragon, which a lot of people have forgotten out. This does have an adventure. This is expensive taste. We've got a little bit of impulse card draw, I believe. You exile actually your opponent's library, and you can look at and play those for as long as they remain exiled. And then 4/4 flying trample. Whenever it attacks, making a treasure token. That's been good in the past with these big dragon decks. Meringue River Regent, another rare dragon with an omen, has draw 3, discard a card as the omen for 4 mana, but it is instant speed. So if you're holding it up, you bust that out on the end step. And then once you cast the dragon for 6 mana, you're getting a 6/7. When this creature enters, return up to 2 other target non-land permanents to their owner's hand. Just a massive tempo swing. I mean, some of these dragons seem pretty pushed, in my opinion. Are they pushed enough to compete with the stuff that's already pushed in Standard is a big question. You know, still got Atraxa, all these things. Caustic Exhale. This is a removal spell that costs less if you can behold a dragon, which this deck should have no problem doing. Although Dragonologist is a human wizard, not a dragon. 3 steps ahead, Dispelling Exhale. This is part of that same exhale cycle. This is the blue one. If you behold the dragon, then it becomes an even better 2-mana counterspell. Essentially, I mean, having to pay 4 is almost a hard counter until the very late of the late game. This is like a 2-mana hard counter. Go for the Throat and Invasion of Tarkir, which is it can flip into a dragon, and whenever a dragon you control attacks, it deals 2 damage to a target. That's kind of fun. Mana base has a Cavern of Souls, Maelstrom of the Spirit Dragon. This is a new dragon-themed land that is coming into Standard. Sideboard doesn't look that exciting. We do have Magmatic Hellkite, which is the dragon that blows up non-basic lands, which I do think has a chance of seeing some play. It blows up the non-basic land, and then they get to go grab a basic land, but that land has a stun counter, so little bit of land denial in Standard. I love to see it. Magic as Richard Garfield intended. And I'm sorry that I thought these tabs were already preloaded. But it'll show you one more. The one I really wanted to look at here is the Mardu tokens. So there's a bunch of new cards from the set, including this Planeswalker Elspeth Stormslayer. This is another one that people were really chattering about at my pre-release. 5 mana, 5 loyalty. If one or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. Relevant because the +1 is create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. So it's really create 2 1/1 soldier creature tokens. The 0 is put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, and those creatures gain flying until your next turn. And then the -3 is destroy target creature an opponent controls with mana value 3 or greater. So Elspeth looks like a fantastic planeswalker, you know, right up there with the other white planeswalkers that we have currently in Standard. This deck is also using this goblin here that has Mobilize. Mobilize, if you don't know, when they attack, you get a warrior that's tapped and attacking, a 1/1 warrior for the duration of that turn. You have to sacrifice it at the end of the turn. So this guy will be generating, you know, friends he attacks with, but they'll go away. Voice of Victory also has Mobilize, also has your opponents can't cast spells during your turn, which might actually be a sneaky good line of text in this Standard. Be interesting to keep an eye on Voice of Victory. Resolute Reinforcements, we know that one. Ruthless Lawbringer, this was very popular in Limited. It's a 3/2 enters. You may sacrifice another creature when you do destroy target non-land permanent. So if you've got these Mobilized tokens hanging out, they're great. You need something to sacrifice them to get some value. Ruthless Lawbringer can be some removal for that. Sanguine Evangelist, we know this works really well in the token decks. Preacher of the Schism can also generate tokens. Zergo Thunder's Decree, so this is the sort of Mardu payoff for this archetype. It is 3 mana, one of each of the Mardus, for a 2/4, mobilize 2, but then the warrior tokens that you're making with your mobilize do not sacrifice on the end step. In terms of instance, another new card we're getting here. This is an uncommon, and this will probably also see play in the token go wide decks. Frontline Rush, just sort of like copies 5 through 8 of Resolute Reinforcements in a lot of ways. Instant speed, makes 2 goblins. Also has this nice mode, target creature gets +X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. So if you top deck this when you're about to make your big alpha strike, then you know the 1/1/1 they don't block, you give it +10/+10, and you know jank people out with the Frontline Rush. I'm really looking forward to doing that. Another one here is, this is a nice piece of removal, really good and limited. Definitely got this played against me. It is 4 mana, which I think makes it probably not playable in standard, especially in a deck like this, which is pretty low to the ground. Although, you know, they're running Elspeth, so maybe they're trying to survive longer. But this deck seems really weak to board wipes to me. But anyways, Inevitable Defeat, fantastic card. 4 mana, can't be countered, exiles any non-land permanent, any of them, and your opponent's going to lose 3 life, you're going to gain 3 life. So nice life swing. It's like you know, Lightning Helix stapled onto, I don't know, Swords of Plowshare, or some, you know, a great exile spell. What's it called? Anguished Unmaking, is that the one? Exile anything. Plus it can't be countered. I love Inevitable Defeat. Okay. Last card I'm going to talk about for today. I'll stop my yammering. I don't know if anybody's still watching here. Mox Jasper. We got to talk about, there's a new Mox in town. A new Mox in. That Mox is named Jasper. Tap added mana of any color. Activate only if you control a dragon. So this card, I don't know if it's going to do well in standard, but I did find this list for Pioneer, and there's something really cool about this list. If you're a standard player, don't tune out yet, because if you look at this list, a lot of these cards are in standard. Spyglass Siren, Sprite Dragon, Inti, I think Miscast is in standard, Spell Pierce, Mox Jasper, Case of the Filch Falcon, and Soul Artifact. It's essentially an Ensoul deck, and we do have artifact lands you could even substitute out for Darksteel Citadel. So I don't know about you, I love these kind of decks. Oh, well, Ensoul Artifact's not in, but we have that 3 mana one. Where did it go? Anyways, there's a 3 mana version of this in standard. I love this kind of deck. I love janking people out by turning what seem like useless artifact tokens into real threats. So this is just, I think, a shell that already existed here with Mox Amber in Pioneer. Mox Amber, as you know, is the Mox that cares about legendaries. This person, not even, I guess, Sprite Dragon is a dragon, so we've got that going for it. We could certainly find a cheap dragon that we could play in standard instead, and to possibly turn on Mox Jasper. But I wonder if it's just having a 0 mana artifact is enough. There's so many artifact based decks that are just on the borderline here, and you can see the sideboard: Ghost Vacuum, Torch the Tower, other stuff that's in standard. A lot of this deck carries over. Is it enough of the deck? Maybe I got a little bit too excited, because I don't think Ensoul Artifact is in standard right now. I was thinking of the 3 mana one that has the Discover built on if it gets removed. You guys know what I'm talking about, or you can look it up. And Shrapnel Blast is a big loss for this deck, but will be interesting to see. Mox Jasper, what do you think it's going to do? If there's a 5-color dragon deck, this is definitely a 4 of. It is legendary here. That actually ends up being relevant in some cards like Kethis that loop. So if you look at Kethis, Kethis combo decks, the legendary thing is actually relevant here. So you can replay it from your graveyard, and because it's 0 mana, you just replay it. One goes to the, if you get 2 of them, one goes to the graveyard, one comes into play, and back, you know, and as long as you can tap it for mana, which is a little bit easier, I admit, with Mox Amber. But you know, who knows? Maybe Kethis can find some legendary dragons that are worth playing, and this will be added to the Kethis deck as well. All right, let's go back to standard. Best of 3, bronze to mythic, because I think I was still on platinum to mythic before. If people want to see this data, here it is, freeze frame. Yeah, so that's this week. Tomorrow, starting around I think 11 Eastern time, the everything's going to get shaken up. It's going to be exciting. I'll be playing a bunch of limited live to begin with, and then I will start moving into some of the more exciting standard decks, and also I'll try to hit Explorer and other stuff. If you guys have requests, I'm always open to hear it. If you have some spicy deck lists, post links below. And with that, this has been Manadad, reminding you magic is a game so fun, even dads can enjoy it.